So let's take a look at how we could finish this model with the cap, and a cap looks really good when we also have some sort of threading geometry added to it. One heads up, Alias does not have very good drawing tools to create a helix and the geometry for threadings. However, for the purpose of concept representation, a very basic threading is fine. That is something Alias can do, because the actual real fabricated threading, those mechanical parts, the engineer will do with their engineering software anyway. So in our case, we should only put in, for example, something that gives the viewer in the presentation kind of like the feeling for how the threading might look like. Because this kind of naked bottleneck looks a little bit bland, and with some geometry on it, it will look a lot more attractive. So let's take a look at how we can do this. Because I have vertical edges here, as you can see, so those are my surface edges, I'm continuing now from my left view and not from my right view. So I can go into left view. I have my grid turned on. I can go to EP curve, maybe click somewhere here with the grid and click somewhere there and snapping to the grid. And then let's turn shaded mode off. I'm going to move this curve with the move tool, right mouse button. Oh, I still have actually the EP point selected, so I select the whole object and then move it down. And maybe like there, okay. And that seems also to be a good height in general, or length of my helix line. And that is the axis for my helix. Then I'm going to create now another line. I control click any P curve point to the starting there, and then I can press middle mouse button with having my curves turned on. And then I will press control and snap vertically to the EP point on the curve, not the X, that would be the CV. I want the EP point. Okay, like this, good. So what's the reason behind this? Well, this is basically a line which we are going to rotate around the axis, but instead of rotating it simply around, we're going to move it also along the z-axis. So how do we do this? Let's go to surfaces and then go to the rail surface. Then we set generation and rail curve to 1. This all can be G0. And here you have something called rotate X form. For example, if we type in 360 degree and then click our generation curve, we basically tell it now to rail around this rail curve and perform a 360 degree sweep. And as you can see, it starts here, goes around, and ends there. So it's basically one turn. Let's say we would like to have 2 turns, so we can type in 720, press enter, and now you see we have kind of like a surface that is like a spiral. Okay. So what is this one useful for? Let's turn all this off and the logo surface. We have to create actually the surface, and it's kind of like a funny part about Alias not having a dedicated spiral tool, because now we can go to curve edit, duplicate, and just copy out our spiral. There it is. There's our spiral surface. this surface I'm going to place on another layer so I don't have to deal with it. And now with this spiral, basically we can create, for example, a pipe. So as you can see, because this generation curve is really half the radius or the distance of this ring, the spiral it creates is basically on the surface of the vertical tube. So we can now go ahead and, for example, use the tube command in surfaces, and let's click on this spiral. We have a radius of 1, click build, and then there is our threading. However, there's a problem, as you can see. First problem is it's probably the spiral is spread out way too much, and also it is kind of like overlapping the surface up here. So let me show you in the next video in how we properly plan ahead, like a correct threading, and then how we recreate the threading for the bottle and also the opposite threading for the cap.